Start the recording. So hello, Barry.
Hey, Brendan.
So Barry is a fellow magician and entertainer. And as far as diversity is concerned, he is going to be representing the older demographic.
That's it. I'm the old guy now.
Yes, yes. The above 40 years old. So not that much older, but in texting years and texting experience, I would say that it's quite a jump between a 20-year-old and 40-year-old.
Yeah, when I was in high school, my family shared a bag phone in our car. So yeah,
Okay, perfect.
there was no such thing as texting then. So,
Perfect. You also represent the father demographic.
that's true for
And yep, and the married demographic.
once. Yes,
Yes, yes. 4 kids, 1 marriage.
that's right.
Good numbers.
I know plenty of people that are the other way around. So.
So some preliminary questions. How often do you text?
Actually using like the texting program, probably averages about once or twice a day. My wife and we stay in touch with Facebook Messenger. That's her choice, not really mine. But
I count any kind of messaging app. I'll also count
any kind of messaging app. I mean, still probably a half dozen to a dozen messages a day most of the time. If I'm traveling, it's a lot more. But yeah, for the most part, I don't spend a whole lot of time texting people back and forth. There is a chat program we use in my day job where I do spend a fair amount of time chatting with people back and forth.
So what percentage do you think makes up work, any business versus personal texting?
If you include the work text, that chat program, it's 90% work, I would say.
Okay. Do you like texting?
It is, yes, for a lot of things. I think texting is a good way to get to send somebody a message without actually bothering them. It used to not bother me to get phone calls, and now if I get a phone call and somebody hasn't texted me first to go, hey, can you take a phone call? It's like, what is wrong with you? This is a serious breach of protocol.
Okay. That seems to be a common sentiment I've noticed. So it's funny that you also think that, where you grew up with calling, that like as the default.
Yeah, and the caller ID is something that was, it was an extra cost. Not everybody had it, and that included us. We never knew who was calling us most of the time when we calls when I was a kid. So yeah, it's just something though that over the years, once texting really took off, then it's like, look, can you just send me a text message, or at least let me know you're going to call before you do, because otherwise I got to stop everything I'm doing and answer it. So
okay,
I'm kind of grumpy like that. I don't like people bothering me.
Okay, that could just be a personal thing.
It probably is a personal thing. I'm a grumpy old man. What can I say?
Do you think texting should be mainly used for quick information, or do you think it can be effective for long form communication?
Oh, that's what email's for. I think it's a short form communication kind of thing. I know people who, your phone all of a sudden will make 3 rapid alert noises, and you look at your phone and it's because they sent a text message that was so long that it had to be broken up into 3 different segments. And I'm like, you don't understand how texting works. You're supposed to keep it short and sweet. Otherwise, send me an email.
So usually people, when they text me, their phone does the multiple ring thing, because I like to send it with the cadence of a sentence or like a paragraph. So like when I text, I'll send one sentence, then the next, and then maybe a third one, usually when I'm trying to tell a joke. Because I still like that rhythm of a joke where you're going to read it like, punchline. But I've heard that annoys people as well. Like, why am I getting 5 messages from you? I'm like, no, it was one thought. It just had to be told in this way.
Yeah, I can definitely see where that would get irritating, because when I get multiple alerts, one right after the other, I start thinking something's wrong. It's like, what's wrong? Why aren't you paying attention to me? I need you. I need you now. I need you. I need you. Come on, come on, come on. You know, and I just, so yeah, that would irritate me. Don't do that.
I will say my jokes can sometimes be a cry for help that follow that same neediness. So so maybe that's the point.
It could be. Maybe you are just trying to get people's attention, and you figure repeated messages are the only way to do it.
What do you think about texting as a way of just having a normal conversation?
Um, so to some, I think it's okay. There's a lot that gets lost in texting. You know, there's a lot of subtleties that get missed. Um, there's not really inherently any emotion in a text message, so sarcasm doesn't always work well. I think it's hard to come across as really sincere when you send a text message. Uh, I this is me putting on my old man hat. You know, I think that is one thing that I think people, and I include myself in this. Everybody seems to have gotten a little bit worse at their interpersonal communication, and I think a lot of it has to do with relying on texting and email and text-based communication. Whereas when you meet somebody face to face, or even listen to their voice, there's a certain emotional component that you just can't get through a text-based interaction.
Okay. I agree with that.
Well, good.
Now on to kind of a different topic here. Do you feel that you act differently over text?
Yes, I am shorter. You know, I try to be efficient over text. I don't even know if I try to, but I tend to be relatively efficient over text. I'll make a couple of jokes here and there and that sort of thing, but I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty verbose when you talk to me. I can over explain things. Over text, it's short, it's sweet. I do the minimum that I have to do to get to the point, and that's it. Part of that is I don't like typing with my thumbs very much. I can do it relatively quickly, but I would much rather have a keyboard. And maybe that's why I think long form communication is more of an email thing than it is a phone thing, despite the fact that you can obviously send emails on your cell phone.
Right. Have you ever caught yourself acting differently while texting to the point that it's been really noticeable? You're like, you know what? Regular Barry wouldn't have said this or wouldn't have said it like that.
Uh, I'm not sure that I've ever caught myself doing it. In retrospect, I can absolutely believe that would be the case. Um, yeah, I can't think of any specific examples though where I've been like, no, that's totally out of character for me. I can think of times when I've been misunderstood,
Okay.
but you know, sarcasm doesn't come across correctly, or you know, words just get interpreted wrong. I've definitely seen that happen on more than one occasion.
How do you read texts? Do you have an inference of tone in your head for different people you talk to, or do you try to read them as neutrally as possible?
I mean, I think I try to read them as neutrally as possible, but I'm not sure that that's actually the case. You know, if uh, you know, if things at home are super stressed out, like in the middle of a pandemic or something like that, you know, I've caught myself reading text messages from my wife in a more aggressive tone than they're intended, you know, just because, probably because I'm feeling tense and more aggressive, I tend to read them uh, probably in more of the mood that I am.
Okay, so you think it's not necessarily based on the person you're talking to, way more based on how you were feeling at the time.
Eh, Both, I'm sure, influence it. But yeah, my mood definitely contributes because I'm reading it with my own internal voice, you know. And so when I get a text message and it says, "What are you doing?" If you know, if I'm if in a mood where I'm like, "What are you doing?" then that's probably the way that my inner voice is going to read it, as opposed to, just, hey, what's up?
So you don't read it in your head as their voice, you read it as your own voice.
Uh,
Or whatever your internal thought that sounds like.
yeah, probably. I mean, I don't, it depends on the conversation, but my voice is definitely in there. My wife, whom I text with a lot, I probably get more of her voice in it. People that I text with are no less, than I get less of it, obviously. But and my head fills in the rest, I think.
Do you read my text in my voice?
Yes. You have a specific texting cadence, as we've already discussed.
Well, because I would say you and I are good friends, but I would say we spend more time face to face than we do texting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the case for a good number of my friends.
Okay.
So I think that's an interesting difference between you and I versus some of the other interviews I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is, I think you've probably noticed, you'll send me a text and then you won't get a response for 12 hours or
Yes.
And a lot of times I read them, but maybe this is part of it being written communication instead of verbal communication. I know when I write something, it's there, it's in writing, and so I tend to rethink what I'm going to send a lot of times. So even if it's just something as simple as, hey, you want to grab lunch tomorrow? If I'm talking to somebody in person, I might be like, yeah, that's great. Whereas if I'm texting them, I want to make sure that my calendar's clear first, and I want to have the right answer before I send it. And so that tends to delay my answer sometimes by a significant amount.
Yeah, I've also noticed for as much as you and I think very similarly and seem to understand each other, you do not seem to understand a lot of my text messages. Usually the longer, rantier ones.
It's definitely been the case on occasion. I've gotten some from you, and I'm just like, I don't know what that means, man.
But then so easily, if I tell you in person, it seems you just get it right away.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm not entirely sure why that is.
That's why we're here. That's why we're investigating.
I figure it out.
So just as a point from a parent perspective, and I think you and I have talked about this before, my mother reads my text because I'm like you. I sometimes like to be very efficient when I text.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a question being asked, I will just put yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that can come across as very negative, especially if it's like a no.
Right.
Or she will ask me something and I will say no, and she will recount the tale as no, and where there's just this extra tone that I don't understand when I'm literally writing no.
Right.
Do you, as a parent, have any insight into that? Maybe texting your own kids or.
I mean, I think part of that's a personality thing. In person, you're not one that's given to just say no. I mean, yeah, I've heard you do it, but you tend to be more verbose in person, and I think your mom is probably used to hearing that, that voice, that longer explanation than just a one-word answer. And so when she just gets a one-word answer and she hears it in your voice, it comes across as short. That's my best guess.
So you're saying my mom has a reason for this and isn't acting illogically or irrationally?
Porque no los dos, or how do you say that?
Why not both?
Yeah.
Shout out to our Latin American viewers who have one sentence dedicated to them.
This is a bilingual show.
It's way more viewers.
That's right.
Who's doubled our audience.
You're welcome.
So on to the next question, because we kind of addressed a few of the other ones. I will say, kind of more specifically to you, when did you first start noticing that texting was going to be a thing?
I resisted it, to be perfectly honest. I resisted getting a cell phone, mainly because I like being able to disconnect, and even back then, I liked being able to disconnect. To get away. I like to hike, and at the time, I lived in East Tennessee, where the Smoky Mountains are and everything, and I like to just get out and go for hikes and not be bothered. Um, it As far as when I thought texting was going to be a thing, I don't think I ever I don't think I ever had a moment where I was like, whoa, this is going to take off, because it started off when the first phones that I had that had it. um I think I started using it immediately, but a lot less, because it wasn't like a full keyboard. It was the kind of thing where you'd have to punch the number, what, five, three times to get an M or something like that.
Yeah, on the 10-digit keyboard where each number represented 3 letters.
Exactly. And I think what really changed that, the BlackBerry changed it some, because they would have full keyboards, but Blackberries were largely for business people, and I don't think I was a business person so much at the time. When the iPhone came out, I think that really is what started to change things as far as people using text on a much more regular basis. Before that, it was just like short communications, and now people can write great big long communications.
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, kind of bringing it more towards myself and figuring out things for myself.
Let's talk about you
And
now.
yes, yes. Um, an interesting thing I think you and I have ran into is that, good friends with you, and I'm also good friends with your wife.
Hmm.
Texting back and forth, she likes Facebook Messenger, sending back and forth. And as you know, there have been several occasions where I have said something to your wife that, let's just say, upset her. Where we have looked back at it and just kind of went, I'm not sure this is any different than what he would say in person, or really reading into any malice, but she has thought there was.
Right. And that's a tone of voice sort of thing. And I think when she is otherwise stressed out, um, that tends to happen more often. But she she's aware you're sarcastic, um, and I think that's a fair statement.
I think so.
She's aware that you're sarcastic, and I think sometimes what doesn't come across in text is the playfulness, for some reason, for her, doesn't come across through the text message as well. So she can pick up on the sarcasm, but she doesn't pick up on the playful sarcasm, and then she thinks you're just straight up being mean to her. Now, I will say, though, there was at least once where there was a text message you sent where there was just an emphasis on the wrong syllable or something like that. Because when I read it, I was like, what's his problem? And then when you said it in person, I was like, oh, I get it. That's a joke. Ha 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 ha. It's funny. But it just, it's what is that? There's a sentence where if you change the emphasis on each word, it has a different meaning. Something like, I didn't say you had to kill him, or something like that. So,
Right.
I didn't say you had to kill him. I didn't say you had to kill him, and if you put an
Right.
emphasis, each individual word has a totally different meaning. So, and
So
that,
do you think, to help these kind of situations, because I've been chewing around a few different ideas of a solution. One would be to make texting better, to have more things to add to texting to make sure we can convey tone. Like, I would like some kind of thing to denote sarcasm.
ah, yeah.
Like how we have parentheses or brackets. I would like some kind of sarcasm indicator. And I think emojis are good for that to a
Mhm.
degree. I've noticed people using LOL to denote a more lightheartedness, is another big one. Do you think it's that, or do you think we as people just need to give less emotion to texting when we're reading them? Just don't put too much stock into it and save any real reactions for in-person communication.
Yeah, I think if you're getting super mad about a text message that you received, then most of the time you're probably better off having an in-person communication before you decide to get mad about it. Similarly, if somebody like proposes to you over text, you might want to have an in-person communication before you start planning the wedding. Anything like
They do have a kneeling emoji though.
and they do,
Yeah,
yes.
so I can show that I'm kneeling first to get on the one knee.
That's true. That's true. I'm just saying, before you make any huge life decisions over a text message, maybe you should confirm it in person just to pick up on that sense of either anger or sincerity coming from the person. Um, the thing is, even if such a thing existed, like if there was an emoji that you wrapped sarcasm with, uh, people still have to use it, and I don't think that people are going to do that. I think they already do that when they expect that they would otherwise be misunderstood. I mean, online you see the closing sarcasm tag and stuff like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, to some degree people are aware of it and do it already, but it is an additional effort. It's not like they're ever going to give you. I have a one of the Samsungs, and it's not like they're ever going to replace my Bixby button with a sarcasm italicus button or something like that. So when I'm writing a text message, I can just hold down the button and indicate that it's sarcasm. It's going to take a certain amount of work, and I just don't think people are going to do that most of the time.
Okay.
I could
I
be
think
wrong.
that's no, I think that's great points because I don't think they will either.
Yeah.
Well, Barry, thanks so much for coming on
Thanks
and
for having me.
sharing the insights of someone who has lived most of their life without texting.
Yeah. Is it most? Yeah, I guess it is technically most. It
Yeah,
is technically
it,
most.
technically most.
Not a whole lot longer, and it'll be about half.
No, yeah, about half. But the age 1 through 10 when you didn't really know what was going on anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then yeah, I think we started to get it when I was in graduate school, so I was probably like 22 or something like that when it sort of became a thing, at least for me. So,
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, man.
all right, talk to you later.
Take it easy.
Bye bye.